Welcome to the After Spin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon. This last week was National School Choice Week. Statistics now show 20% of our K through 12 school-age children attend a charter, private school, or homeschool. Is this a good thing? Why are parents choosing these options instead of traditional schools? And how is it impacting our education in North Carolina? Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, one of the most interesting things I thought in School Choice Week was Guilford County Public Schools released a talking about all this choice that you have inside Guilford County Public Schools, STEM schools, magnet schools, specialized schools, all the schools that are in Guilford County. I thought the Civitas poll was a little silly when they said, well, do you want to decide where your kid goes to school, which you can do that already in traditional public schools. Charter schools, of course, are public schools, although I think there's some issues with them, but they're still funded by the taxpayers and they have accountability. My concern, and I've actually mentioned this a couple weeks on the show, are the lack of controls and accountability we have on taxpayer dollars for schools, for private schools that we give money to, which is part of the school choice movement. Excuse me, I mentioned there was a charter school in Charlotte, it was in Charlotte, that was deemed to be not only financially troubled, but also had accountability issues with academics. There were 185 students at that school. I believe 163 then became eligible and got opportunity scholarships. So it wasn't a school that we would support with taxpayer dollars because it was doing such a poor job, but we're supporting it now with taxpayer dollars. And I think that's an example of other states have school vouchers, school choice, private school vouchers, and they have a lot more accountability measures.
I'm going to give you a chance to get a sip of water.
Right.
John, you react to this.
I think it's a positive that more North Carolina families can exercise choice. It is certainly not sufficient. It is very good that public school districts are emphasizing and expanding their choice options. In fact, that's one of the benefits that school choice proponents always argued. I certainly have always argued that competition would be good for the district schools. It would drive them towards higher levels of success, towards better explanation to parents about what they offer. It would encourage them to create choice schools of their own, which they have. The problem is a lot of those choice schools are not available to parents freely. If you apply to get in, but you can't get in. It's on the other side of town.
This is true with charters as well as private, right?
That's correct. Well, what I'm talking about is district schools that are choice schools.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You can't say, well, they all had a choice. No, they don't. Lots of parents do not functionally have choice today. They still don't. There are not enough charters available. They can't get into the choice schools that are within the system, within the districts. So I would like to see some additional expansion of our choice programs. But I think it is a signal that we got to 20%. I think it is likely that number will go higher in the coming decade.
We got to 20%. Chris, why isn't this sending a signal to the education community for traditional public schools? Hey, you need to change some things here.
Well, I mean, I think we're trying to change things in traditional public schools. John has argued on the show that when you account for poverty and other measures, that our schools are actually doing a pretty good job. So that means we should figure out how to serve the kids that are struggling. One of the ways you do that is you don't penalize schools and give them an F on the door if they have a high percentage of low-income kids. It means you go back and start refunding school counselors and school nurses and a lot of other things that have been cut. I think it means you go back and put teacher assistants in the early grades. There's plenty of things that we can do that we know work in the traditional public schools. My concern, again, is that we assist, and we should, on accountability, and we talk about evaluating how our public schools doing. Where's the accountability for the taxpayer dollars in schools that are funded by taxpayers but are not public schools?
And
That's my concern.
This is unrelated, but it is related. Did y'all see the report that came out a week or so ago that showed that the University of North Carolina system's graduation rate has risen to 71% in 5 years, which is better than it has been in many, many years. And the question was asked, why? And the answer seemed to be, we are providing better mentoring and better counseling for these students today than we were
in the university system. Right.
That's what I said, university system. So doesn't that lend itself more to sort of blending in the topic you were talking about, providing, particularly in the earlier grades, these children with more mentoring and tutoring and help and
It could be. There are always trade-offs when you make choices about education dollars. I don't think there's anything inconsistent. In fact, I think it is mutually supporting to provide school choice opportunities in North Carolina to parents who clearly, desperately, and angrily sometimes demand them, and that you reform the public schools at the same time. In fact, that is mutually supportive to do both of those things. It helps.
It's interesting. So where does this all play out? We're just going. You said you think this percentage is going to keep growing?
I don't know. You said that.
Oh, I did? Yeah. I knew I heard it somewhere.
I think if we're going to have these privately schools that are supported by public dollars, we need the same accountability that we have when they're in public schools at the very least.
But isn't that accountability to some extent part of the reason why the parents are leaving?
Well, I don't know. We have parents, and we have some schools that are clearly teaching kids bizarre things, and I guess are we going to say that that's okay with us? Are we going to say that if parents have choice, but there's a point where we have to have a sound being the operative word, sound basic education.
Accountability, though, usually ends up being more rules and regulations, does it not?
Well, it means standards. I think that's another way to think about it.
Okay.
Parents are happy with their choice options because those schools are more accountable to them than the district schools are.
And
who
what
don't
happens?
listen
You know what happens?
and don't change.
You know what happens when those schools fail? You know where the kids go?
That's correct.
When they kick them out of the school?
Just as when public schools fail, which they often do, but they don't close down, the students flee and go to a decent school. It depends on the situation. Some choices that parents make may be unwise. But in general, allowing parents more choices is going to be a good thing. The vast majority of North Carolinians support it. Oddly, the governor does not.
Oddly, that
He's
we
an
have no
extremist on this point.
I say this every time. We have kids in North Carolina that are learning dinosaurs. We're paying for this to learn dinosaurs and humans coexisting on the earth. Our taxpayer dollars are funding that, and I guess that's okay with everybody.
It isn't a good idea to teach that. It is also not a good idea to teach some of what we teach in the district schools, which parents have strong objections to
can go
as
to
well.
the school board and
have no possibility of changing the policy.
Power. We have no power. We have a democracy on public
Doesn't work.
schools.
Tune in next week when John and Chris continue this argument.
Democracy doesn't work.
If you complain, but nobody else complains, you have 4 people go, it doesn't change
the
outcome.
You can go to you can kick people out of office. That's why we have elections in North
Actually,
Carolina.
the best election is when you elect what school your
That's
child
right.
will
Let's keep
attend.
telling people that dinosaurs and kids coexisted, and let's keep paying for it.
That is not what is
Let's keep paying
happening
for
the vast majority
It
of
is
the time.
happening at the vast majority of religious schools. It is
That
happening,
is not
John.
correct.
We're
See,
going
ABECA
to
curriculum
wake the
teaches
people
that.
in the control room and thank you for watching this After Spin. More video will come your way all during the week on ncspin.com.